What is up, Squared Nation? Welcome back to the Four Corners, the official podcast of No Counters, No Combos. Today we have a very special guest. Johnny Tio from El Topo Loco himself has joined us tonight. What's going on, brother? How you been?
Hey man, what's good? I've been good. How have you been?
I've been pretty good, man. Just trying to navigate through all this COVID stuff, but that's why
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
sure everybody's doing the same thing right now. So we're just trying to stay positive. So I want to thank you for joining us. This is obviously your first time on the podcast, but I definitely have been paying attention since I've come back into the game. You recently started a YouTube channel with El Topo Loco, correct?
Yes, sir.
So what made you want to get into the whole content creation?
So actually, El Topo, a little bit of backstory. El Topo Loco was like a kind of a joint idea between me and Miguel Caquillas.
Okay.
And originally I wasn't that really that into like content creation, all that YouTube stuff. But then I don't know. We one day we recorded a profile of my Go Tank spec that I had been testing for a long time, like set 10, because you know how like in quarantine there wasn't really anything to do besides play DBS.
Right.
So I played a lot. I played quite a bit of set 10, and I thought Go Tanks was such a strong deck. And then once it came out, I got all the cards, and then I went to two locals. I went to CGU. I went 3-0 there, undefeated. Then I went to Nova down south, went 3-0 there. And then Miguel was just like, "Yo, let's record this profile, put it up on YouTube." And yeah, so originally that first video went up on Miguel's channel, his Silent Wolf. But then we decided, like let's make a team channel. And so that's how El Topo Loco started. And the first video is actually a re-upload of that. But then afterwards, we just started uploading a whole bunch of stuff. Like a whole bunch of team members are just contributing. They have all these different ideas, so it's really cool. So yeah, I'm super happy to be like a part of this channel, and I'm super happy to be part of this community.
Yeah, I mean that's great. I mean, listen, the more content creators that we have in the community, I think the better. I don't think there's a right or wrong time to jump on the content creation wagon. I've noticed that when it comes to newer players entering the game, if you get somebody who's new into the game and they get to watch a YouTube channel that's like a newer channel, they kind of just grow with that channel. Like when I first started playing the Dragon Ball Super card game, the most popular YouTube channels out were Super Players and Kitchen Table Meta, and I just kind of
Yep.
grew with that until I decided to do it myself. So I mean, like I said, there's never a wrong time to start, and I'm sure you're gonna attract a lot of newer players and obviously some veterans as well because like I said, the more the merrier. So that's good. I'm glad that you guys have a nice little team together. Where are you based out of though?
So we're based out of New Jersey. So I'm in like East Brunswick. I'm in Central Jersey. A lot of the rest of the people are down south in Central Jersey, like near um, the brick area. And then also we have one other player up in the north area, but pretty much just all across New Jersey.
That's
Yeah, so we're
fantastic.
just
I
trying to get
mean,
New Jersey like out on the map.
yeah,
Yeah.
and listen, I know exactly the boat that you guys are in. For the most part, when I was heavy into it, New Jersey was like the melting pot for Dragon Ball, at least in that area, like the northern New Jersey area at CGU. That's pretty much where everybody went. So I'm glad that you guys decided to just kind of, take the mantle and run with it because I know that there was a time there where locals started falling off and there was a lot of fluctuation in the game with people not attending as much as they used to, and then COVID hit. So COVID kind of threw a wrench in everybody's life, as well as
Yeah, for sure.
card games and stuff like that. So I'm glad that you guys decided to stay on top of it. So with that being said, though, I wanted to ask, like, um, how prominent is the Dragon Ball Super card game scene in the state of New Jersey? Today, like how big is it? Is it as big as it was? Is it bigger? Like, give me some insight on that.
I So it's kind of different where you're at, like depending on where you're at in New Jersey. So like, on in the northern part of New Jersey, like for CGU, I'm talking specifically. They actually closed down on their Mondays, and that was like the day that like the city of Newark is closed on Mondays now.
Hmm.
So that was the day that they had their locals, and so now we moved it to Friday. We had a pretty decent turnout last Friday. We had about like 6 players or so, which is not bad. But I've seen CGU like with like much higher numbers before. But the good thing about CGU though is that they always have their monthly 1K, and they've
Right.
had 3 of those in the past 3 months, and each like all of those have had like a crazy amount of people because they opened up their outdoor seating. So that's really cool that CGU is doing that. That's really huge. That's also like a good point of content creation for us because we go there and we get to record some high level matches and like really good players. Like we had Jordan Markle on there,
Hmm.
and then we're gonna do a video exchange with the Hill Twins actually. Depending, not sure when this comes out, but we're actually doing a video exchange with the Hill Twins. At the previous 1K, I played a reboot Gohan deck that I finished top 8, and I show off that deck on their channel, and then later on we're gonna be uploading one of their videos. I think it's Eric Hill's Dredge Crew deck.
Hmm.
It's just such a cool green deck. It's just
Yeah.
really cool. You'd never think of it, and it's just like it's really strong. So we're gonna be doing that.
So aside from CGU, because that's kind of been like the most established location, probably maybe not in the whole state, but for the most part, northern New Jersey, it's definitely been the most popular local. Where else is it that you guys are playing Dragon Ball Super on a regular basis?
Oh yeah, there's at least for me, there's 2 other shops. Um, the first one being Greg's Games. Shout out to Greg's Games in Hamilton, New Jersey. It's kind of like they're in Hamilton, which is like kind of South Jersey, but like it's like I would consider it South Jersey. But they have locals on Wednesdays, every Wednesdays. But to sign up, you have to pre-register, and every week they always sell out. There's 8 spots. They always sell it every single week. They do such a great job. I love that place. But now they're also starting Saturday tournaments, which start at 12 o'clock, and yeah, and they have the new tournament pack set 11. So yeah, if you guys are ever in the area of Hamilton, New Jersey, like you guys should definitely check out Greg's Games. The second place we go to is Nova Games in Brick, New Jersey, and they host locals on Tuesdays and Sundays, both at 6 o'clock. They do best of 3.
Nice.
Yeah, and that scene has been like consistently like 4 rounds. 4 rounds mean like 8 higher than 8 people. So
Hmm.
we would have like 13 or 14 people a night. We would do 4 rounds, and it would be a blast. Like, yeah, back the last 2 times I was there, I won their Sunday and their Tuesday. So back to back.
Nice. So
Yeah, so
you're
those
getting
are
your
all the
reps in
places.
for sure.
And then there's also one place even further down south. Shout out to All Things Video Games. They recently moved to their new location. They used to be in Pine Hill, but now they're in Clemington, New Jersey, and they have their locals on Mondays and Thursdays. Mondays is like their casual nights, and then Thursdays is like their actual like competitive nights with like the tournament packs. So yeah, I should go check them out also. Yeah, and then that's it.
No, it sounds like there's a good collection of options, which has always been something that, we always tried building from day one. You need options because not everybody's schedule lines up to be the same. Some people prefer playing on the weekends. Some people prefer playing during the week, whether it's early in the week or late in the week. So as long as you have options and you can cater to a larger group of people, then obviously, everybody's going to be able to go out and get their reps in. So the fact that you're going, 2, 3, maybe even 4 times a week is fantastic. So with that being said, because you play so much on a local level, do you prefer, or maybe it's like a two-parter question, do you prefer playing more local or do you prefer playing in big tournaments? And then with that being said, when you do play on a local level, are you playing uber competitive decks or are you playing more like casual janky stuff?
Um, so first off, I do want to say that I think that we're very fortunate to be able to have locals pretty much actually every day of the week. Actually, if you're in Galactic Patrol, I just updated the post, and if you're in New Jersey, there's a local every single day of the week, and I think that's like we're super blessed to be able to have that opportunity to play so much.
For sure.
With that being said, though, yeah, playing. I actually have a deck that I keep that I really only use for big major events, which is everybody knows is Reboot Gohan. But I don't really like playing it at local events because I don't really get to play the game. Kind of just solitaire. So, but recently I've been playing Green Gotenks, and it's been doing pretty well. I won at CGU and I won at Nova, but then last night I actually got clapped. Shout out to people at Greg's Games. Yeah, I just haven't been able to do well there because the caliber of their players have just like they've improved so much, and I'm so proud. But yeah,
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. And we did talk about briefly, the 1Ks that CGU has been posting or putting on every single month, pretty much since August. Do you think though? I don't really think it's so much of a problem. But do you think the fact that it's so frequent that they're doing monthly 1Ks that it kind of deters people from showing up to locals since they have that bigger event available to them so often?
mm, that's an interesting point that you brought up. I've never actually really thought about that because like the local scene is pretty small, and yet the turnout for the 1Ks are pretty big.
Right.
I think it's probably because like the CGU they don't really like advertise their Dragon Ball Super events that much. It's pretty much just us in that North Jersey group, and that's pretty much it. I'm sure if we branched out, there would be. I'm sure if we like posted something on Facebook or whatever, or if they posted something, like we would have a bigger turnout. Yeah, definitely for sure. But yeah, I've never thought about that until now.
Yeah, I mean it's just interesting to think about. I mean, most of the time, for the 1Ks, they haven't had less than 40 people, and they've been doing them since August.
Yeah,
So I mean that's huge in my opinion, especially now the state of
yeah,
the world the way it is
definitely.
right now. 40 people at an event is huge. I just thought it was interesting that you can get 40 people to turn out for a 1K, but sometimes your locals don't fire. And I know there's a lot of obstacles, and you still have to take people's health and their comfort into consideration. I completely understand
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
I don't want to make it seem like I want people to just willy nilly go to their local. But if you're comfortable enough to do it, I think it's good because obviously now moving into set 11, the tournament packs are going to start becoming more readily available at local gaming stores. But it also it keeps them open. I mean, I think that if you think about it, if local stores were to close down, it wouldn't really be a good time for us as players. I mean, you'd still be able to buy product online. That's never going to be an issue. But, to go sit down across the table from a buddy and jam a couple games in is virtually impossible if there's nowhere to go do that. So,
Yeah,
for
exactly.
people that are listening to this podcast, whether it's New Jersey or Pennsylvania or whatever state that you live in, if you're comfortable enough to go support your local gaming store, please do so. Keeping them around is definitely going to help in the long run. And then hopefully, if the world ever decides to go back to normal, it's going to mean a lot to the store owners that your regular customers continue to show up to support them. So, with that being said, moving forward, obviously, I'm sure
Yeah,
you feel the same way that your health and your safety is the most important thing.
for sure. And also one thing to note that like um, of course, over in New Jersey, we're always following all the safety protocols. Everyone's wearing a mask. We're washing our hands between every round. We're doing our things to keep each other safe, and that's what really counts. Like
Yeah,
being able to support your local store, but at the same time, support your friends and protecting each other, like by wearing a mask and being clean and all that.
yeah, of course. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, we're all part of the same community. It's like a fraternity of brothers at the end of the day. And obviously, we're going to keep each
Pretty
other's
much.
best interest in mind, and we're always going to look out for your fellow player. That's very important. Um,
Exactly.
so, I want to ask you your opinion, okay? We have set 11 that just came out, and we have the brand new, like, super combos that have come out, with each color,
Hmm.
kind of like the Paragus super combo, right? The put one at the bottom, draw two.
Yep.
And then you have your multicolor super combos, your Zamasus, your Android 18s, your Beeruses, your Whises. So I know that you have used the Zamasu super combos a lot because I've seen your deck profiles on your team channel.
Hmm.
So I kind of wanted to get
Hmm.
your opinion. Which do you prefer, and which do you think is the future of the game, so to speak, as far as super combos goes?
Okay. All right. I'm glad that you brought up this question because I think super combos are incredibly important, and because they have like such a profound impact on your game, I have like a very like I don't know. I really like the super combos, but okay, let me go into them. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
So when you're having like an aggro deck, right? Think Reboot Gohan or Red Broly. What you want is cards that will give you draw, like cards like you want to see more of your cards
Right.
basically. So for Reboot Gohan, I'm playing 4 Paragus. That's like a no ifs, ands, or buts. Like you must play that card. There's no other super combo for that deck but to play that card. And then the same thing goes for Broly Swap, the new red deck.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any other super combo you want to play besides that rat. You bottom deck one, you draw two, such good value.
Mm-hmm.
However, when it comes to so that's for aggro, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you move into like more mid range, I'm talking like green go tanks. So everyone like at the start has been playing Targus for green go tanks, but after some playtesting and some talking theory with my teammate Hassan Mahadin, shout out to him, we've actually decided to cut Paragus completely, and we're playing for Giro.
The one that you
Dr.
put
Giro, the yellow green super combo, the one that Foolish Barrels the card.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so
The card.
what's the reason for
Yeah,
that?
so the reasoning behind that is because you want to the deck awakens at 6 life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So past that, you kind of life is pretty much precious because you have no further use for that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times you would have dead Paragus in his hand, and you would wish that there were Giros instead. And Giro will always be live. You can always keep that high life total. And Giro is like a toolbox for the Green Gotex deck. You could send Ribrians, you could send Darbons, and you could send any of the TP packs, either Goten or Trunks. So that one card alone can get you access to so many cards in your deck, and that's why we think Giro is better than Paragus in Green Gotex. A runner-up would be the Nappa super combo.
Mm-hmm.
I think a one of Nappa super combo is good because it gets you really good value. It's a 10k, you combo it. He hits the board, and then you can combo it again for another 10k. That's just really good value. But other than that, I haven't really been playing that Zamasu Sacred Disbelief combo for a while because recently I've been on green because I think green is just so strong right now.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree that green is. I think green is the strongest color in the game right now because it just does a lot. I mean, Dormant Potential Unleashed and Ribrianne Punishing Passion, just like the toolbox that you can create with green. I think right now is incredible. But I will say, I've noticed that if you're not playing Dormant Potential Unleashed, it's probably not worth it to play green. What do you think?
Ooh. I think it's interesting that you say that because okay, so I have 3 different green decks built. I have Reboot Gohan, I have Green Gotenks, and then I also have Majin Vegeta built.
Mm-hmm.
And the only deck that I'm playing Dormant in the main is Gotenks. Mm-hmm. Like the other 2, I have them built for just pure streamlined aggro, like consistent, do what it needs to do every game, every turn.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually cut Dormant Potential from those decks for the main decks.
Interesting.
To kind of just streamline my process, do what my deck wants to do. Because, I don't really care about defending if I'm playing an aggro deck, right?
Right.
Yeah. But in the side decks, then I would play Dormant.
Okay.
But just not in the main.
That's interesting. I mean, I think Dormant is a great card. Obviously, it it's a great card. That's why it's commanding such a high price tag right now. I mean, the fact that
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
yeah, the fact that you can essentially stop your opponent for green is phenomenal. I definitely do see it. It's definitely a green staple in my opinion. Which to me, green has like probably the most expensive staples in the game right now with the combination of Dormant and Ribrianne. You can make the argument for Earth Destroying Kamehameha. So it's definitely
Yeah,
out of it. It's definitely one of those colors where if you want to play it, you might have to invest a little bit of money to do so. Which is it's not so budget friendly in my opinion, but it's definitely great. Leaps and bounds from what it used to be. It has probably the second best free counterplay in the game with Charismatic Villain. You can make the argument
yeah,
that God Sealing.
that card is so good.
Yeah, I mean you can make the argument that God Sealing's a little better. It has a really good secret rare with the Xeno Cell. So there's a lot of expensive, really good cards in the color right now. But it's probably not friendly for your budget if that's what you're looking to play. But to each his own. I definitely don't knock anybody for playing green. If the cards are good, play them if you can afford them for sure. Um,
But really quick though, speaking on the topic of budget,
mhm.
for those of you who are listening, before the podcast started, I asked Adrian if we wanted to do a video swap, right? And he said, yeah. So what do you think? I want your thoughts on this idea. What if we did a video for the top 5 competitive budget decks for October 2020 or like November 2020, whenever?
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally down for that. I mean, I've been dedicating a lot of my deck profiles to the budget playstyle, um,
Nice,
just because
nice.
I feel like in every card game community, there's your uber competitive players who don't care about price, and then there's your budget players who want to be competitive, but they sometimes can't afford to purchase those higher end expensive cards. So I felt like, listen, I don't feel like there's enough representation in the community right now for budget playstyle. So I just took it upon myself to do that. So any type of budget, either budget tech options or budget deck options or whatever, I'm definitely always down for. There's definitely a large enough card pool where if you did some research and you understand the game in a vacuum, I think you can make some pretty valuable choices in any color. And I think green is definitely one of those colors that tends to be more expensive on paper, but if you really peel it back, you can find some pretty good budget options. So yeah, I'd definitely be interested in doing that for sure, 100%.
Okay, awesome, cool, cool, cool. So that'll be another video for another time. If this video gets like a certain amount of likes, then we'll post it.
Okay.
So guys, yeah, make sure you guys subscribe to the El Topo Loco YouTube channel. Be on the lookout for that. And of course, if you aren't already subscribed for No Counters, No Combos, obviously do that.
Definitely. I love the plug, man. I love the smooth plug
So
there.
I had a question
Sure.
actually. What are your thoughts on the amount of variety that we're seeing in this game?
So that's a great, and it's great because I never get asked questions, so I'm always like never ready. I'm never ready to answer them. But I've played the game for a very long time. I've played the game since before even Set One came out. I got trial decks at New York Comic Con, and I've been playing since then. So obviously when a game first comes out, there's not going to be too much variety. Set one, set two, set three. You started seeing a little bit of variety in set four. Then Wish came out in set five, and it was super one-sided with the Wish leaders with Shenron, Gogeta, and then Super Shenron aggro or Super Shenron, swap, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think since the errata or whatever they did to Super Shenron to make it unplayable, you've definitely seen a spike in originality and what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word you said? I'm drawing a blank.
Archetype? Are you
Variety.
thinking
So
maybe?
yeah, different variety in the meta
Oh,
right now.
variety, yeah.
And then unfortunately there was that time period where I wasn't playing when it was Surge format. So I know from just talking to people in the community, there wasn't really a lot of variety in Surge format. It was Goku, Piccolo, and maybe Hatch. So I'm glad to see having conversations and not being, not playing at that time. I'm glad to see that people have definitely shifted, and that like triangle format, it kind of doesn't exist right now. I mean, we're still pretty early in set 11. I mean, it's only been out for 2 weeks, so anything can change. But I definitely feel like now more than ever, you have the ability to kind of just play what you want if you know what you're doing. Like, if you want to play a certain strategy and you commit to it, you can definitely have success with it if you know what you're doing, if your play lines are crisp, if you're not making misplays, which is hard because we all make misplays, and if you have good matchups. I definitely think that the door is wide open. So I'm huge on variety, and I like it where people can play a game and have fun, and they can play the way they want to play and not feel like they're forced to play a certain way to stay relevant. That's always been my philosophy on variety and competitive card games.
I think that's 100% true. And I don't know what it's like for you in your PA local scene, but I know that Nova. I remember one time, I just before my game started, I just got up and walked around and looked at all the different decks that were being played, and we probably had about like 13 or 14 people, and only two people were playing the same deck, and it was Green Go Tanks. Mm-hmm. Everyone else was playing something different. There was like a Blue Vegito, there's a Vegex, Broly, Skillless Gohan, you name it, literally anything. Everyone was playing it. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure yesterday too, I don't think anyone was playing the same deck yesterday. And it's just, and it really, like, as you said, it really does come down to the player and like how well he knows his or her deck. I remember yesterday I made a huge misplay just because I wasn't familiar with the blue cards. You know, the baby counter, that ape?
Yes.
The 5-drop?
Yes.
Yeah. So I dormanted, and my opponent, shout out to Steve Grant, so he countered aped my dormant, and so then on the summon, I summoned a Frieza, my Frieza counterplay, and he had a Goku Path to the Infinite, the one that you can evolve the UI Goku on it, the triple strike bounce all your opponent's cards. So he had that on board, and then I decided to KO that instead of the ape because I didn't know that the ape had triple strike. So he swung with the ape triple strike, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, that ape is ridiculous. It's a counter. If you're playing the Unison, you can play it just by pitching 2 cards. You don't even have to pay its 5 cost. So it's pretty vicious. I mean, that, it takes a lot more setup, but if you think about it, Baby Unison, Mira Champa, Ape is game. Just like it used to be with Battering. So if it takes a lot more setup than Battering Champa Mira, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. So you gotta be super careful with that Ape because he's gonna come down and he's gonna swing for a triple strike, and then if you have your Unison on board and you can -5 and give your leader double strike, there's just so much you could do with that little combination there. I think it's great. I'm really liking that baby archetype. I definitely haven't experimented with it yet. It's the last on my list because I feel like it's just good on its own, so I don't need to really put too much work into it. I feel like it just builds itself. But I'm definitely interested in seeing how Baby is gonna do because it's essentially charge past the deck. You don't really do anything on your own turn. You just do everything on your opponent's turn, which is insane.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and I just feel like blue got such a boost, and I'm actually not a fan of blue. If you know me, like you know that I'm like I could never ever play blue because there's just so many negates. You know that I'm not into blue, but I know that I can definitely acknowledge how much stronger all the blue cards have gotten. That blue secret rare that just stops my whole turn. That card is phenomenal. There's a Trunks. The winner's promo, the heroic prospect one where you summon it if you have a Unison for 1. Then your opponent can attack with cards higher. Like that card is just so good. Which is, blue got quite a boost.
It's funny that you mentioned blue. So this is a perfect segue, right? So we're talking about blue and how powerful it is with all the counters and counter plays that it has. But obviously we've had all of the Draft Box 6 reveals, and we know exactly what's coming out in Draft Box 6. And a lot of blue,
Oh,
a lot of players in the community, but I feel like a lot more blue players than anything are up in arms about the one drop silver bullets. So I kind of wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts about those one drop silver bullets for blue?
um, it's kind of crazy because Bandai, they're part of their editor notes in previous erratas and bans is that they didn't want to limit card design.
Right.
Because like of the whole silver bullet fiasco with like Shugesh and
Mm-hmm.
Konoha and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But no, actually, I actually kind of think this is okay because I don't know. I just feel like Blue has just been super strong and they just always have infinite energy and this game is based off of energy, right? The more energy that you have, the more things that you can do. And Blue just always has more energy than the opponent. So I feel like there's really no other way to check that right now because all of the other ramp hate cards are pretty much gone. The only one that we have is like Dende.
Mm-hmm.
Dende, even then, is not really that good. So, I kind of feel like printing these silver bullets. I think it's fine. Some people might not like it, but I think it's okay.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, so here's the thing, right? Most of the time, blue is really the only color that untaps energy with a counter skill. Like I, off the top of my head, I really can't think of another color that does that. I don't. I'm pretty sure yellow doesn't. Like Time Magic Nimbus, none of that stuff untaps. None of the red stuff untaps. None of the green stuff untaps. It's essentially just blue. You have your
Yeah.
Dimension Magic, obviously. You have Whis Coercion. Those are all counters. The Future Gohan counterplay from set 7. If you have a multicolor in charge, you can counterplay for 2 energy, bounce something back to your opponent's hand, and untap 1 energy. That's a target.
Hmm.
There's a lot of different. Final Hope Slash is kind of in that, because it does untap an energy. But what I will say is, for the most part, it's an option to untap your energy. It's not a mandatory skill. So it's not essentially shutting off your negate, but it's shutting off your ability to untap the energy so that you can use it efficiently or reuse it efficiently. Blue is the only color in the game that abuses the untap mechanic. And in a resource-based game that focuses on energy to play, you have to pay a cost to play a card. Anytime you're reusing or recycling that same energy, obviously you have an advantage. So I'm okay with the silver bullets for blue. I mean, I'm definitely glad that every color got one, but it's kind of useless since black got one, so there's really no need to have a specific color because the Gohan just does everything because it's colorless, so it doesn't have any color restrictions. You could just play 4 Gohan in the side deck, and you don't have to worry about having the correct energy. Um, but I'm okay with it. Just play around it. There are a lot of cards in the game right now that interact with barrier, like barrier removal and stuff like that. So I think you just have to be, smart. And you're talking about your opponent. Your opponent's answer to your counter strategy is 4 cards out of their 50. So they have to have the card. Yeah, granted, you draw a lot of cards in Dragon Ball, and you have the mulligan. But sometimes if they have it, they have it. You just gotta adjust and adapt slightly. And I don't really think that these silver bullets are gonna ruin the game because none of them really have. I mean, Cronoa didn't stop Shugesh. Not really anyway. People just played around it. Kami was good for a while. Dende was good for a while, but they didn't really like change the game. It wasn't like game breaking, and we all had the same reactions when they were revealed. Like, oh my god, this is gonna change the game so drastically. But I don't feel like it really did that. I think sometimes people freak out for what's face value, and they don't give themselves enough credit that you're smart enough to figure a way out of it. So for those of you who are listening, members of the community, players in the community, don't panic. Just relax. I think everything's going to be just fine.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And like, I think it's funny that you brought up Shugesh and Konoha because I think the first time I went to level 1 games up in like way North Jersey, I brought a triple Shugesh deck, and every single round my opponent with main deck and Konoha, and I was not a good day for me. I was
That's
not happy.
in the best of one philosophy. You had to main deck Cronoa just because you couldn't if your opponent hatched you guess, you were gonna lose. That's how powerful he was.
Yeah, I was playing a yellow Broly GT. I was
Yeah,
gonna summon the guy and then evolve triple flash.
yeah, that triple flash per game, that was pretty explosive back in the day. Yeah, I mean, we've had silver bullets before, and we've all adapted and we've gotten around it. Um, I think everything will be fine moving forward. I'm not too worried about it. Now, speaking of Draft Box 6, let's just talk a little bit about that real quick. We have all the
Mhm.
reveals, pretty much all of the cards, except I think maybe the leader. I know there's like an ape leader that we're getting that's all colors or something like that. But I think there's another leader that might be in the set. I'm not exactly sure, but for the most part, all the commons, rares, uncommons, and SRs have been revealed. And there's a lot of similar feeling in the community that this Draft Box 6 is nowhere near the power level of Draft Box 4 and 5. So, what are your thoughts on the quote unquote watered down Draft Box 6?
Well, I'm actually kind of okay with it because, like, I feel like with every set that's come out, that every like major set that's come out has always changed the game drastically, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've never like getting like Bandai releases product pretty often. Would you say so? Would you
Yeah,
agree with
I
that?
mean, I don't think they are releasing it now as often as they used to, but they
Yeah,
definitely
not
release it.
now,
Yeah, for sure.
but like used to. Yeah, they definitely release product pretty often.
Yeah,
And so we would never get to really like flesh out formats and play the decks that we want to and like master them because there will always be a new set around the corner.
right.
So I feel like with all this draft box six stuff, it being not too powerful, like I'm kind of okay with that because I feel like recently, especially with set like going into set 10 with all the new counterplays and the introduction of unisons, I feel like the power creep in this game has gotten pretty crazy. Like every deck you play now, like it's pretty much you have to have a unison. Like that's how strong unisons are.
Right.
And I feel like that is definitely attributed to the power creep that this game has had. And it's natural, like all card games go through it, the power creep. But I feel like, I'm okay with draft box six being not as, game like format warping as maybe the other draft boxes.
So I agree with you. I mean, when you look at the product itself, Draft Box, right? Its intention is to attract new players to the game.
Right.
Four buddies, they go and they split a draft box. They get their 6 packs, they build their deck, they have a leader in there, and they just play some kitchen table games. I think a lot of the time people forget that these games are meant to be played as a hobby, as a thing to pass time for fun, right? A lot of us forget that because we're all so, super competitive. But at the end of the day, that's why the games are made. Obviously, the competitive players drive the market and they keep the longevity of the game going because there's a want for competitiveness and events and stuff like that. Sure, no problem. But face value, it's a card game that you're supposed to play with your friends and have fun doing it. So draft boxes are designed to bring new people into the game. And if you look at 4 and 5, the amount of power that was in those draft boxes. I mean, you had Saiyan Instincts was in 5. Um, what's it called? The Double Strike Bardock, Ape, the you combo 2, and then it comes into play. Those cards are super powerful, and they've commanded really high price tags in the game. And I don't think that was Bandai's intention, but because the cards were so good and they could be splashable in pretty much any deck, they became quote unquote staples for the game and very expensive staples at that. So I think you're definitely seeing a transition away from that and making a much more watered down draft box because that's what they want to do. A draft box or any type of supplemental set that is not a core set, if it's going to have new cards, should support the already existing archetypes from the current block. So Draft Box 6 is coming out and it's directly supporting the already existing archetypes that we have in set 11. It's not like it's its own new set that, oh, it's going to completely warp the meta. Like you said, we don't really get enough time for the meta to get legs because at its peak, Bandai was dropping new product every single month. They would do their core
Yeah.
sets, 4 times a year, but then there was this draft box, there was this anniversary thing, there was this expansion, there was this, there was that. And it became exhausting keeping up with the amount of product that was released because you want to stay relevant. So I definitely feel like they've taken a step back and they're developing these new products to help support what's currently out. Now, it gives you the option as a player. There are some really good cards in Draft Box 6, but if it's something that you can't afford or if you miss out on Draft Box 6, I don't think it's to the point where you can't play the game.
Yeah, exactly.
So at the end of
And
the
I've
day,
I've actually never drafted before, so like this about yeah. So like this will be my first time drafting. I actually really want to draft this time. So
yeah.
maybe I'll have some good games that aren't like crazy super power crap.
Yeah, I mean drafting's supposed to be fun, and I think the best sets in the game for drafting are the theme sets, World Tournament, Tournament of Power. I think if you wanted to draft that, you're going to be perfectly fine because they're even Clash of Fates. You can make the argument for that it could be drafted because it's archetype specific, stuff that came out in those sets. You can't really.
Mhm.
It's hard to draft. Like a core set because there's so much different support for already existing archetypes or if you're playing a block rotation where you're limited to set 10 or set 11 like the shop championships are going to be that might be a little more difficult because it's very limiting it's limiting the card pool by a lot, but those theme sets or those draft boxes which are designed with the intention to be played within itself, I think, is the best way to go. Like I really want to buy a box of World Martial Arts Tournament and just crack it and draft it and play it and see how it works. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that would be really cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably something I'm going to try to do later on, before the end of the year as we move into 2021. Might do like a special draft of World Martial Arts Tournament or something like that if I get my hands on a box, but we'll see what happens with that.
Nice.
I kind of, as
Yeah.
we were talking a little bit, you brought up a good point with the the game changing with the introduction of the unisons and the free counterplays. Now, I've noticed a slight trend in the game. If you go back, to the beginning in set 1, your leaders, every leader had pretty much the same awakening skill. When you're at 4 or less, you flip this card over and draw 2 cards. Then we got the untap 2. Then after the untap 2, sprinkled in there were like the black leaders that we had, the Trunks and the Mira, that when they are awakened, you can grab a card from your warp area. Then you got the untap 1, draw 1, then you got, the wish leader with the 7 balls and flip it over. And now I kind of see a trend where the untap 1, draw 1 was kind of like the standard for a little bit, and then you have the leaders with the alternative awaken conditions. Like you have Vegito and you have Dredge Coup, where if one of your battle cards leaves the field, you can awaken, and you get, obviously the awakening skills with the unisons. Um, and then in set 11, the skillless Gohan leader is an awaken draw 2. Okay. Now, the reason I said all that is I have a point. My point is I've noticed that the game is relying less on hard casting threats to the board. There's a lot of stuff that you can play for free if you control a unison. There's a lot of stuff that you can play for free on activate mains. There's a lot of free overwhelm cards that doesn't require you to invest your energy into. So I wanted to ask you, because you're a very prominent player, you've been playing the game for a very long time. I want to ask you, do you think that shifting towards the future, even though we're based in a resource management type of game, do you see it becoming something where everything just gets played for free as long as you meet this specific condition?
Um. Well, first I want to say thanks for shouting me out there. Appreciate that.
Oh, of course,
Um,
no problem.
and yeah, dude, I really think that all the free play cards in this game are kind of crazy. Like if you look at Vegex, you remember how crazy that deck
Right,
was back
right,
when Bibbidi was still nuts. Like
right.
I feel like even now the deck is still really good because you mill five and you could summon, you know, five pieces of Exodia and draw a card too. Like while
Yeah,
you're at it.
exactly.
So definitely, yeah. So that's huge. And then if you look at other good decks, you have green Gotenks, right? You can play the blocker for free,
Mm-hmm.
right? That the Gohan potential unlocked
Yep,
blocker.
yep.
You can play the Frieza counterplay for free. The dormant potential is free. And I think it all comes back to what we were talking about earlier with the whole power creep and everything. And it's power creep because you get all these free cards and that you wouldn't have access to otherwise if you weren't playing Unison.
Right.
So it all pretty much comes back to the Unisons, and that's why they're so strong, and that's why they've had such a profound impact on this game. And while we're talking about Unisons, I really do like that feature of this game. It's added a lot more spice. It's added like so many more new dimensions to this game, and it really makes you rethink the way you play this game, right?
Absolutely.
Because like say I play I tap two for a Vegito Unison, right, and then I plus two to give my mono green cards revenge.
Mm-hmm.
My opponent, in order to get rid of that card, he has to swing four times
Right.
into that Unison in order to get rid of it,
Yep.
and that's four times that he's not swinging that leader.
Exactly.
And that's huge. Like to protect your leader four times from all those different attacks. But from what I've seen and from my experience playtesting, specifically Gotenks, the key to winning that matchup is really through getting rid of that Unison. Pretty much once that Unison is off the board, like your opponent has to pay energy for dormants. You don't have to worry about Frieza getting KOing your Gotenks fusions.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I said about missing four attacks on the leader, it's actually worth it to use those four attacks to get rid of that Unison, in the long run, because, that's just how powerful Unisons have gotten, especially in green.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, being able to, like you said, meeting the requirement to play your defense, because that's basically what it's coming down to, is your defensive cards are now free. Your dormant is a
Yeah.
defensive card. Your counterplays are all defensive cards, and you can play them for free. Now, every color has their specific counterpart. I mean, you have dormant and you have charismatic for green. You have release from evil and prideful transformation for yellow. You have your the Trunks counterplay and the Trunks negates, or not the Trunks negate. The Trunks negate, the Spirit Sword, even though it's not that good of a card, it's still all free if you control a Unison. And then red now has the the Violent Rays and the Yamcha, right? So every color has, their specific, card that goes into it, right? But some of them are just way better than the others. I mean, there's no argument that Charismatic Villain and God Sealing Technique are the best counterplays in the game. Like, there's no argument that people are having right now that, oh no, Yamcha and Prideful Transformation are way better. That's actually false. Like, it's an actual fact. And the fact that they're free allows you to keep your energy open for utility plays, which is interesting to me because you have a lot of utility cards in the game. You have Saiyan Instincts, you have Fu Mission Accomplished, you have cards that you can, I hate using other terms, but you can sink your mana into it because you're not utilizing it. Ribrianne is a card that you can activate from the drop area just by paying 2 energy. So you have stuff that you can do with all of that open energy that you don't need to commit to your board state or playing defense, which I think is super interesting. But with that being said, it's definitely a power creep, but it makes the game a lot more interesting because you can't.
Oh yeah, for
you
sure.
can't. Yeah, you can't assume that your stuff is gonna stick. Like you can't just be like, oh, I have Mira Champa, it's game. Well, I'm gonna slap this charismatic villain on the table, and even though your mirror has deflect, I'm gonna pop him with my auto. So you just overwhelmed and your finisher, and you have nothing to worry. Like you can't do anything now. So it's like it's not a guarantee that you're gonna get to a specific game state where you can ensure your victory. So you always have to be on your toes, which I prefer that because I like interaction between myself and my opponent.
Yeah, and that's crazy that you mentioned that the mirror chompa thing because that actually legitimately happened to me. Shout out to Phil. This is at Nova Games the like last week or so. He comboed all out the rest of his hand, um, and then I was like, "Oh, sure, I'll take this," because I know he had the mirror. So he summoned the mirror, and then I had the Frieza, and then that was it.
Yeah, that's it.
GG.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
so
it.
like that's just
That's basically it. Or like
yeah.
these new effects now on certain cards that prevent you from taking more than one damage or any damage, like that new Mass Saiyan promo. That for the battle you take no damage. So if your opponent shotguns for game, on a double or a triple or even a Cell Zeno with quadruple strike, if they shotgun in on it, and the Cell Zeno didn't rip that one card out of your hand. Okay, cool. Here's one energy. I'm gonna use this card, and I'm only taking one damage. You just wasted your entire hand. It's insane because that's stuff that we're not used to thinking about, but now we have to think about. So you have to adjust to the new mechanics in the game, which ultimately is going to make you a better player, but it's a lot more to think about in such a small amount of time.
Yeah, for sure. And so speaking of something to think about, kind of wanted to, get a little peek into the mind of Adrian. What deck are you looking at? Like, what are you in the lab? What are you most interested in? What piques your interest the most right now at the moment?
So, when it comes to like locals and stuff, I'm on a different deck every
Mm-hmm.
week for obvious reasons because I need to test out different things so I can put, content out for my the budget players out there. I want to make sure that they have options to choose
Mm-hmm.
from in every single color. So this week I'm actually playing the SS4 Gohan leader. I have a pretty good build, I think. It's been doing pretty well in testing, so I'm hoping that I can translate that into some success in an actual real life tournament. But if you were to ask me what deck I would take to an event, like competitively, I would take Gohan Icarus, 100%. No doubt in my mind, I would take Gohan Icarus for sure. I think that deck,
Really,
yeah,
the yellow leader?
yes, I think that deck is very slept on, which I love because I love the underdog strategy, or being the underdog rather in the room. I think it's very slept on. I think a lot of people are overlooking how powerful Forever in Our Memories is. Like that unison, that skill drain is insane if you can get it to stick, if you play it properly. The only downside to the leader, people might say, is that it's a draw two instead of an untap two, but as we've seen in the past, leaders that can generate a lot of hand advantage usually do pretty well. I think at the end of the day, once it has all its support, in combination with the tournament promos and Draft Box 6, I think you can make the argument that it could be a 1.5 tier strategy. Um, but yeah, I think the deck does a lot, and you'd be surprised, getting hit with 6 to 7, 8, one drop 15Ks when you can't block, you can't do anything because your skills are shut off. It could get out of hand pretty quickly. I don't know. I don't know if the sweet spot for the deck is mono yellow. Right now, I've only been experimenting with mono yellow. I'm gonna try a couple of different things, um, and see what happens. But that's the deck that I would take to like a 1K or a regional for sure, 100%.
Nice. I think it's awesome that you mentioned that because we actually have a profile up on our channel by George Voda. Shout
Yep,
out to him. I don't know if you saw it, but
I
it was
did.
like yeah, the Gohan, the yellow skillless Gohan that he played at the 1K.
Yeah, I did. And for the most part, um, I'm not going to take anything away from him because he performed very well in the tournament. So I'm not going to take anything away from him, of course. I wouldn't play the deck the way he built it. Every player is different, so obviously kudos to him for being the first to crack the egg. I don't
Mm-hmm.
agree with the caulifla combo evolve card. and I don't like the 2 mana double striker Bardock Ape. But for the most part, everything else was pretty good in my opinion. I mean, I'm I don't like the Caulifla because late game, like if I don't get that off early enough, late game, if I have my Unison on board, she's just a 20k vanilla. Like that's all she is. She's not gonna
Hmm.
come in and tap
Yeah.
anything. She's not gonna be a double striker. So if I have to commit one energy, you know, in that deck, I'm gonna either want to play my dual attacker, or I'm gonna want to do something else. So I mean, I get why it's played, early. It makes sense. I have seen a lot of builds that have been incorporating like the Universe 9 cards like Basil and Bergamo, which are good yellow
Hmm.
cards, but I think you're trying to do two different things at that point. Um, I think the trend with set 11, not only do they want to focus on monocolored strategies, but I think you get rewarded for sinking yourself into the archetype and leaning more towards playing the archetype specific stuff in that color. And the perfect example would be like red Broly swap and dark Broly. Like those decks are built one way and they function the way they're supposed to function. They do what they do well, and there's not a lot of room for tech options. And I feel like set 11 is kind of like wanting you to do that naturally. Just like lean into the archetype, commit to it, play the cards that you're supposed to play, and you'll have success with it. So obviously, there's room for experimentation with the Gohan deck because you don't have all the cards yet. But I think once all the cards come out, you'll start seeing more, archetype specific builds with the set 11 leaders and stuff like that. That's just my opinion.
Nice, nice. I'm really glad you put me onto that because I definitely agree with you. And there's so much support coming out for that deck. I feel like that deck would be worth picking up right now. So I'm definitely gonna be hopping on that train soon.
I
But yeah,
mean,
cool.
the other thing too,
Good to know.
right? The other thing too is floodgates. Floodgates are very powerful in any card game. So if you're looking at just yellow, as a color, it's got a lot of really good floodgates. I mean, you have Nimbus, you have your Forever in Our Memories Unison. That's a skill drain, and you have a very effective counter if you need to use it. I mean, Swift Retaliation Cooler is one of the best yellow cards in the game. And in that
I
skillless
love that
Gohan,
card.
yeah, in that skillless Gohan strategy where you're not committing a lot of energy to your board because you can free play your guys from the drop, or you can free play them with the Goku Junior, Vegeta Junior Unison. If you have 3 energy open and you play that cooler, you're just getting infinite amounts of value. Now, obviously, if you have your Unison out, Cooler does get his counter, but he won't get his on play auto, so you're not drawing 2 cards. But if you're playing it when you don't have your Unison out, you're getting your counter, and you're drawing 2 cards because you're a yellow leader. So you're just extending, more. So it's just one of those things where it's a go wide weenie strategy that's pretty effective in my opinion. And getting another battle card on the board with Swift Retaliation Cooler while also stopping my opponent's defense, I think is a no-brainer. So there's a lot of different ways you can play it. I think the argument can be made that right now, especially because it doesn't have all of its cards, there's room for tech options. But I think once Draft Box 6 comes out and once everybody has their tournament promos, like I said, you're going to start seeing more archetype-specific things.
Cool. That's always something to look forward to because archetype decks are really cool. And I come from a Yu-Gi-Oh background,
Right.
but archetypes in Yu-Gi-Oh are like they're uber strong.
Mm-hmm.
They're super strong.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, cool.
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing, right, is consistency and synergy. You want to be able to see your pieces that you need when you need them. You want to be able to like I hate playing card games and having dead cards. Like yes, sometimes having dead cards is unavoidable, but I feel like Dragon Ball does a good job of essentially not having so many dead cards because the combo step and the charge phase, like you can just charge a dead card or you can combo away a dead card if you don't need it. And especially now with these new super combos, you can put the dead card at the bottom of the deck and draw 2 new cards. So I think Dragon Ball does a really good job of not having too many dead cards in hand. But I also find a lot that if you're playing just blue or yellow good stuff, sometimes you might run into a couple of bricks. Sometimes you might run into cards that you just really can't use in certain matchups. And I think when you're playing archetype specific stuff and you lean into that strategy and you lean into the theme of the deck, you get rewarded for it. And it feels good at the end of the day, just being able to toolbox everything out and be able to do whatever it is that you need to do in an efficient manner.
Yeah, I definitely 100% agree.
Yeah.
And
So
it's all about getting value, you know? Like at the end
exactly.
of the day, like DBS is a value game. You know?
Exactly. I mean, and you play Gotenks, so more than anything, that Gotenks deck is 100% locked into its archetype because you need your combo pieces to do what you need to do. So
Yeah, straight value that deck.
exactly. I mean,
Love that deck.
you're getting a 25k beater on the board for 2 energy, and you're drawing cards and you're popping stuff. So yeah, of course, by all means, it's great. I'm glad Gotenks got some love in set 11.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so we've been talking for a little over an hour now, so we're going to start wrapping it up here. Just the last thing I wanted to ask you, man, before we get going, is for everybody who's listening to this podcast. Obviously, we know that you're on you're a member of the El Topo Loco team. Obviously, we can find you guys on YouTube and stuff like that. But aside from YouTube, are there any other social media platforms we can get in touch with you yourself or your team?
Yeah, so actually, anyone can message me. Just be like, hey, what's up? I played. Start with like a hey, I played Dragon Ball Super or whatever, and I can add you guys to. We have a Facebook group called Galactic Patrol, and I think I just added you earlier today, Adrian. Not
Okay.
sure if you got the invite, but yeah, that's pretty much a group of Jersey locals, and like surrounding areas. We just talk about like different events that are happening and that kind of stuff. Also, we have a Facebook page. We don't really post that often, but you can go like us on Facebook as well. We have a Facebook there, but it's pretty much mostly our YouTube that we focus on and all of our content. So yeah, check us out on YouTube.
All right,
El
sound.
Topo Loco. Oh, by the way,
Yeah.
if you search up EL space TOPPO space LOCO, it's gonna show results for TOPO with one P. But when that happens, you just click show results for El Topo Loco with two P's. That's when you want two P's, not the one P, two P's.
So two P's, not one P. For those listening, it's crucial,
Exactly.
or else you're not going to get to the right channel.
Yeah.
So Johnny, thanks so much for joining us, man. I really do appreciate it. It was a lot of fun chatting with you. And in the future, if you ever want to come on again, or if you want to, talk about anything, you just let me know. You're more than welcome to come back. We really do appreciate having you. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. And I wish you the best of luck with your channel and your local scene and everything. Hope you're, staying safe out there, being healthy.
Yeah, of course. We're always trying to stay safe. So for everybody listening, just keep an eye out for the collaboration. We'll probably work on that soon. And other than that, thank you guys so much for the support. We really do appreciate it here at No Counters, No Combos. And we'll talk to you next week. Be there or be squared.